When you cut off contact, something powerful happens. You take back control. In every relationship, whether romantic, platonic, or even professional, there is an unspoken dynamic of power. One person usually invests more, cares more, or chases more. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does create an imbalance. When you initiate no contact, especially if you are the one who is always reaching out, checking in, or trying to keep the connection alive, you disrupt that balance. And suddenly, the one who had the upper hand, the one who took your presence for granted, is left questioning everything. At first, he may not even realize what's happening. If he was used to you always being available, always answering immediately, always initiating conversations, then your silence won't register as a loss right away. He might assume you're just busy or that it's temporary, but as time passes and you remain silent, something shifts. He begins to wonder why. He starts questioning his assumptions, and in doing so, he starts to feel something he likely hasn't felt in a long time: uncertainty. Uncertainty is a powerful thing. It's what makes people chase in the first place. Think about it. When something is guaranteed, we don't value it as much. But the moment something feels like it might slip away, we start paying attention. That's why luxury brands don't overproduce. Scarcity creates demand. In relationships, the same principle applies. The moment he realizes that your presence is not guaranteed, that you are no longer readily available, he starts feeling that scarcity. And this is where the power shift truly begins. Now, here's where things get interesting. When he starts to notice your absence, his first instinct may not be to act immediately. Instead, he might test the water subtly. Maybe he'll like an old photo, view your stories more frequently, or send a casual text, something small to see if you'll bite. If you do, the power shifts right back to him, because in his mind, he now knows that you were just waiting for him to acknowledge you. But if you don't respond, if you remain composed and unbothered, his uncertainty grows. This is when his emotions start playing tricks on him. He may start remembering all the good times, but now those memories aren't just fond recollections, they're reminders of what he might be losing. Suddenly, the things he overlooked, the way you made him feel, the security of knowing you were always there, all become magnified. Because here's the truth: people don't appreciate consistency until it's gone. The beauty of the power shift is that it's not about playing games. It's about reclaiming your value. Too often, when we care deeply about someone, we unknowingly give them more power over us. We text first, we make excuses for their behavior, we tolerate things that don't align with our worth. No contact is not just a strategy to make someone miss you. It's a way of reminding yourself of your own worth. When you stop chasing, you give the other person the space to realize what they had. And if they truly value you, they will feel the need to step up. But here's the key: when the power shifts, you have to decide what to do with it. The goal isn't to use it to manipulate or punish someone. The goal is to make sure that if they do come back, they come back with genuine effort. Because someone who truly values you won't just chase you out of fear of losing you temporarily. They'll step up because they recognize your worth permanently. So, if you ever feel like you're losing someone by going silent, remember this: real connections don't fade because of space. If he truly cares, the distance will only make him realize how much you matter. And if he doesn't, then he was never truly yours to begin with. The power shift isn't just about making him chase. It's about making sure you're only pursued by someone who genuinely deserves you. When someone you've gone no contact with starts to feel the shift in power, their first instinct is often to test the waters. This isn't always a conscious decision. Sometimes it's just an automatic reaction to the uncertainty they're feeling. When you were always available, always responding quickly, and always engaging with them, they never had to question where they stood with you. But now that you've pulled away, that certainty is gone, and the curiosity starts to creep in. This is where the "are you still there" check-in comes into play. It usually comes in the form of a casual message, something light, nonchalant, almost meaningless on the surface. It could be as simple as, "Hey, how have you been?" Or even more subtle, like reacting to one of your social media posts with a heart or a laughing emoji. It might seem insignificant, but the purpose behind it is anything but. He's not reaching out because he has something important to say. He's reaching out because he wants to know if you're still there, still thinking about him, still willing to engage. The key to handling this moment is understanding that his message is a test. If you immediately jump at the chance to respond, you confirm his assumption that you are just waiting for him to acknowledge you. In his mind, it reassures him that he still has a hold over you, that he hasn't actually lost anything. This allows him to continue behaving as he always has, keeping you at arm's length, giving just enough to keep you interested but not enough to fully commit. He gets the reassurance he was looking for, and you, without realizing it, have given back the power you had gained by going silent. But if you pause, if you don't immediately respond, or if you choose not to respond at all, the dynamic changes. He's left in limbo, unsure if his message even mattered to you. He starts to wonder if you've moved on, if you've lost interest, or if someone else has your attention now. That small seed of doubt begins to grow, and the longer he goes without a response, the more his mind starts working against him. This moment is crucial because it reveals the true nature of his intentions. If he was only reaching out to ease his own ego, to make sure you are still emotionally available, he likely won't follow up if you don't respond. He'll retreat satisfied that he at least tried and move on. But if he genuinely misses you, if he truly feels your absence, then one unanswered message won't be enough for him. He'll try again, he'll put in more effort. And that's when you'll see whether his interest is real or just an attempt to regain control. One of the biggest mistakes people make in this situation is assuming that any message, no matter how casual, means that he's ready to come back and invest in the relationship. But a message is just that, a message. It's easy to send a text. It's easy to react to a post. None of these actions require real effort or commitment. That's why your response or lack thereof is so important. It forces him to show his true colors. If you do choose to respond, the best approach is to keep it just as casual as his message. A short, neutral reply, nothing overly enthusiastic, nothing that invites a long conversation. This keeps the balance of power in your favor. You're acknowledging his message, but you're not giving him the validation he's looking for. You're showing that you're unbothered, that his presence or absence in your life isn't affecting you. Ultimately, the "are you still there" check-in is not about reconnecting. It's about him trying to reassert control over the situation. And your best move is to recognize it for what it is and respond in a way that keeps your self-respect and confidence intact. After no contact, when his casual check-ins don't get the reaction he hoped for, he might take things a step further. This is where emotional bait comes in. Unlike the simple, "Hey, how have you been?" messages that are meant to test your availability, emotional bait is more strategic. It's designed to pull at your heartstrings, trigger nostalgia, and make you feel something, anything that will make you engage with him again. Emotional bait often comes in the form of a message that references shared memories, inside jokes, or significant moments from your past together. It might be something like, "I was just driving past that coffee shop we used to go to, made me think of you," or "I heard our song today, brought back so many memories." These messages are not accidental. They are calculated moves to remind you of the connection you once had, because while a simple "hey" might not work, he knows that emotions, especially nostalgia, are much harder to ignore. Why does this work? Because memories have power. The human brain tends to romanticize the past, focusing on the good moments while conveniently downplaying the bad ones. When he brings up a memory, He's banking on you reliving the happiness of that time rather than remembering why you went no contact in the first place. If you're not careful, that one message can send you down a spiral of reminiscing, missing him, and even questioning whether the breakup was a mistake. And that's exactly what he wants. Another form of emotional bait is playing the victim. If nostalgia doesn't work, he might try to tug at your empathy instead. He could send a message like, "I've been going through a really rough time lately. I don't know who else to talk to." Or, "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. I've been thinking a lot and I really messed up." These messages put you in a position where you feel like you have to respond, either out of concern or because he's finally giving you the apology you once wanted. But here's the thing, if he truly cared, he wouldn't need to bait you into a conversation. He wouldn't need to rely on nostalgia or guilt to get your attention. He would take real action, show genuine change, and prove that he values you in ways beyond just words. Emotional bait is just another test, another way to see if he still has a hold on you. If you respond to these messages with emotion, whether it's warmth, sadness, or sympathy, you're giving him exactly what he wants, validation that he still occupies space in your heart. And once he knows that, the dynamic shifts. He no longer has to chase as hard because he's reassured that he hasn't completely lost you. So how do you handle emotional bait? First, recognize it for what it is. If he's bringing up old memories, ask yourself, why now? What does he really want? If he's playing the victim, remember that people who truly want to make amends do so with action, not just words. If you feel tempted to respond, take a step back and remind yourself of why you initiated no contact in the first place. If you do choose to reply, keep it neutral and detached. A simple, "hope things get better for you," or "glad you have good memories" is enough. No deep conversations, no diving into the past, no reopening wounds that you worked hard to heal. At the end of the day, emotional bait is just another tactic to test your boundaries. The way you handle it determines whether he keeps trying or realizes that you're no longer someone he can manipulate with mere words. When casual check-ins and emotional bait don't get the response he wants, he might escalate his efforts by using jealousy as a tactic. This is one of the most common and manipulative strategies someone will use after no contact because it plays directly on emotions that are difficult to control. If he can't get your attention through nostalgia or guilt, he'll try to provoke a reaction by making you feel like you're being replaced or left behind. Jealousy is a powerful tool because it triggers insecurity and a fear of loss. Even if you were the one who initiated no contact, seeing someone you once cared about moving on, especially so publicly, can be unsettling, and that's exactly what he's hoping for. He might suddenly start posting pictures with a new girl, tagging himself at places you used to go together, or leaving flirty comments on someone else's posts. He may even mention another person in passing, saying something like, "I've been spending a lot of time with this girl lately. She reminds me of you." None of this is necessarily genuine. It's a calculated move to get inside your head. The goal of the jealousy play is to get you to break your silence. He wants to see if you'll react. Will you ask questions? Will you show signs of jealousy? Will you suddenly engage with him again just to prove that you still have a place in his life? If you do, he wins. Because the moment you show that you care, he gets the reassurance that you're still emotionally attached to him. It puts him back in control of the dynamic, allowing him to dictate the pace of communication while you're left questioning your decision to go no contact. But here's what you need to remember. Just because he's trying to make you jealous doesn't mean he's truly moved on. In fact, the very act of using jealousy as a tactic proves the opposite. If he were genuinely happy with someone new, he wouldn't need to broadcast it in a way that's designed to provoke a response from you. People who are truly content in their new relationships don't feel the need to rub it in their ex's face. His actions are not a reflection of his happiness, they're a reflection of his insecurity. So how do you handle the jealousy play? The best response is no response. If he's trying to make you jealous, it means he's seeking your attention. Denying him that attention is the most effective way to counter his tactics. Don't watch his stories, don't engage with his posts, and most importantly, don't reach out to him. The more unaffected you appear, the more frustrated he'll become, and over time he'll realize that his attempts to manipulate you are failing. If you ever feel tempted to react, remind yourself of your worth. You don't need to prove anything to him, and you certainly don't need to compete with someone new just to regain his attention. The right person won't play games to get a reaction. They'll show up with honesty and consistency. If he has to resort to making you jealous, it means he's still operating from a place of immaturity and ego rather than genuine care. At the end of the day, the jealousy play is just another test to see if you're still emotionally invested. The way you pass this test is by showing that your happiness and self-worth are not dependent on his actions. Keep your focus on yourself, continue moving forward, and let him play his little games alone. The best revenge is living well, and nothing is more powerful than showing through your silence and confidence that you are completely unbothered. When all other tactics have failed, the casual check-ins, the emotional bait, the jealousy play, he's left with only one move, the last-ditch effort. This is his final attempt to regain your attention, to pull you back in when he realizes that silence isn't making you fold. At this stage, desperation starts to seep in, and he shifts his approach from subtle tests to direct emotional appeals. The last-ditch effort can take many forms, but at its core, it is designed to elicit a strong emotional response from you. He may send a long, heartfelt message about how much he's been thinking about you, how he realizes what he lost, or how things aren't the same without you. He might say things like, "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I finally understand how much you meant to me," or "I don't want to lose you forever, can we just talk?" These messages are loaded with sentiment, carefully worded to make you feel like this is the moment he has finally changed. If words don't work, he might escalate with actions. Maybe he unexpectedly shows up at a place where he knows you'll be. Maybe he calls instead of texting, catching you off guard with a voice that sounds just as familiar and comforting as it did before. In extreme cases, he may even use crisis as a way to get your attention, saying that he's going through a hard time, that he needs your support, or even hinting at emotional distress in ways that make you feel like you have to respond. The reason this tactic is so effective is because it taps into empathy. If you once cared about him deeply, hearing him say these things can shake your resolve. After all, there was a time when you wanted nothing more than for him to open up, to show vulnerability, to say exactly what he's saying now. And that's what makes this moment so difficult. It feels like everything you ever wanted from him is finally happening. But the real question is, why now? If someone truly values you, they don't wait until they've exhausted every manipulative tactic before finally deciding to be honest. They don't test you with silence, jealousy, or emotional bait before getting to the point. The fact that this is a last effort means that it wasn't his first instinct. Instead of treating you with sincerity from the beginning, he tried everything else first, hoping that something less effortful would get you to come back. That alone speaks volumes. This doesn't mean that every last-ditch effort is insincere. In some cases, distance does give people clarity, and they genuinely come to realize what they lost. However, the way they go about it will tell you everything you need to know. If his words are backed by meaningful action, by real self-improvement, by a genuine willingness to address the issues that led to the breakup, then maybe it's worth a conversation. But if it's just another emotional appeal with no substance, then it's nothing more than another test. The best way to handle this moment is to stay grounded in your original reason for going no contact. Ask yourself, has anything truly changed, or is he just panicking because he realizes he's losing control? If you respond, do so with caution and watch his actions, not just his words. If you choose to ignore it altogether, trust that you are making the right decision for your own peace. At the end of the day, the last-ditch effort is exactly what it sounds like, a final attempt to see if you'll break. The only way to truly pass this test is to remember your worth, stay true to your boundaries, and make decisions based on what's best for you, not what's most convenient for him. When every other tactic has failed, when the check-ins didn't work, the emotional bait didn't pull you in, the jealousy play didn't break you, and even the last-ditch effort fell flat, there's only one move left. The final chase. This is the moment when he realizes that he can no longer rely on manipulation, half-hearted gestures, or subtle mind games. If he truly wants you back, he has to go all in. The final chase is different from everything that came before it. Up until now, his attempts were designed to test you, to see if you would react, to gauge whether you were still emotionally available. But when he reaches this stage, it means he finally understands that passive efforts aren't going to cut it. If he wants your attention, he has to prove it in a way that is undeniable. At this point, he may make a dramatic move, something big and unexpected. Maybe he shows up at your door unannounced, looking you in the eyes and asking for another chance. Maybe he sends a deeply personal letter, pouring out his heart in a way he never has before. Maybe he reaches out to mutual friends or family members, trying to convince them to talk to you on his behalf. Whatever he does, the common theme is urgency. There's a sense of, I can't lose you, I need to act now. The reason this stage is so intense is because deep down, he knows this is his last opportunity. He's pushed you to the limit, and if this attempt doesn't work, he'll have to accept that he's lost you for good. That's why the energy shifts from calculated and cautious to direct and determined. But here's where you need to be careful. Just because someone is chasing you doesn't mean they've changed. Desperation and love are not the same thing. The intensity of the final chase can be overwhelming, making you feel like it must mean something deep and real. But you have to ask yourself, is this coming from genuine self-improvement and a real desire to build a better relationship? Or is it just panic because he finally realizes he can't control me anymore? Real change doesn't happen overnight. If he is truly serious about making things work, his final chase won't just be about grand gestures. It will be about consistency. It won't be just one big message or one emotional moment. It will be followed by real effort, accountability, and a willingness to do things differently. If he's only chasing because he's afraid of losing, then the moment he feels like he has you again, the effort will fade. He'll fall back into old patterns, and before long, you'll be right back where you started. That's why your response in this moment is crucial. If you choose to engage, don't get swept up in emotions alone. Take a step back and observe his actions over time. Make him show, not just tell. If you choose to walk away, know that you're not rejecting love. You're rejecting someone who only valued you when they feared losing you. At the end of the day, the final chase is not about him. It's about you. It's about whether you've grown enough to recognize what you truly deserve. And if you stand firm in your worth, no amount of chasing will make you settle for anything less than the love, respect, and consistency you deserve.